Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video. Good morning, Eric with Courageous Conviction. Today we're going to go through this video, this week actually, going to go through this video of Connor Boyack that we talked about last week. And we never really got around to that because I wanted to take some time and isolate and break this video down. So I want to go through this video and play this video for you and actually talk a little bit about it in between. It's funny because this morning I was having a discussion with my mother. And she asked me, she said, Eric, what is your purpose in all this study and understanding everything that's going on politically and economically and around the world and so forth? Shouldn't we just be more focused? Her intention was, her question was more geared towards, should we just be more focused on just the scriptures? And I obviously think that'll be another great video. Good question, another great video. I broke it down, opened up section 88 of D&C, 77 through 81, and showed her that in order for us to magnify our college, we need to have an understanding. And it's logic. How are we going to have an understanding of how to lead and guide our families through this windy road, this path? It's not a straight path necessarily for us to follow. It's straight and narrow, but we often get diverted and so forth because of politics and because of economics and things that pertain to that or outgrowths of that, like war and so forth like that, right? And collapses of economies. How can we be prepared for those things is if we don't know what's coming. We read the scripture so we can read the signs of the times to know what's coming, right? It's the same idea and the same promise and commandment given to us to research all these things. Now, we've gone into that, and I think it'll be another video. But I want to get it back into why do I do this? So I can be the best father I can be, to prepare my children. And my children are not children. They are the future young adults or the future adults that will run the world, run the wards and stakes of the Lord. And I was given those children to prepare them for what the Lord needs them to do and what they need to do here on this earth to be able to fulfill their measures. If I don't understand these things, then I really do fail my children. So the spiritual is just as important as the temporal. And remember, everything is spiritual before the Father. His kingdom consists of all these things. Now we'll come back to a commandment. Commandment is to be prepared, right? President Hinckley had warned us that we should have 1 year. There's going to be a cleansing coming that never took place yet. Cleansing coming in the church that's going to challenge the saints for 1 year. And so the recommendation was to have 1 year of food and water and money and things set aside. Now the church has backed off a lot on that because the people just weren't being obedient to those commandments. And today, the reason people are still with so much ignorance. Now, not you being our viewers that are tuned in here. If you're tuned in here, you're going to be abreast of what's going on in the world. And this is the truth. We discuss everything the truth here. We tried to pretty much get it all right. We get 98% of everything right. If we get some little details off, they're those small details. They aren't the principle or the actual act of what's taking place that we're wrong in. Those are correct. What I want to talk today is about that video with Connor Boyack in being prepared and food storage. The approach, the commandment that existed and still exists today of that preparation. So without any further ado in this, let's just jump into Connor Boyack. Now, keep in mind something. Connor Boyack also, he's got a newer podcast, and I'll put the link down below again that we did last week to the same video. We want to do a video on this, and I repeat this. He did such a fantastic job that I'm just going to share his video with you. Let's watch it. Please watch it in patience. And I would encourage you to do so. And let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk about it a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to try to do too much interrupting on it. And I don't like watching videos that have content where they're playing other videos, but I couldn't do this any better than Connor did. And so I want to share it with you because I think it's very important for you to understand this and prepare yourself for what's coming up. And very likely this year. November is going to be a pivotal month here. And we're going to see what's taking place. Could be this year, or it could be just incremented over the next years if certain parties don't win an election this year. But the destruction of this country, of America, is already well underway. And that is prophecy. The invasion of former Lamanite descendants, coming from other countries and taking our inheritance is already underway. It's beginning now. And it's only going to get worse unless it stops. And I don't see anywhere in the scripture that tells us it stops, right? So then we need to prepare ourselves. And look, here's an adage we have in our family, part of our family mission statement, that we work to be prepared for tomorrow. We also work that the preparation, we won't need it for tomorrow. In other words, we work to be prepared today so that tomorrow, if we need it, we're prepared. If we don't need it, then we've already got it and we have that peace of mind for the next tomorrow. That's a good adage to live by. You can say it however you want to say it. But let's jump into Connor's video right now. Walter, let's play Connor's video and I'll give some comments on it. Go ahead.
How much food do you think the average Latter-day Saint family has? And is food storage in the LDS Church kind of a thing of the past? You don't hear leaders talk about it as often or in the way that they used to. Those are the questions we're going to unpack in today's Sunday Musing. And to begin, I want to share a little snippet of an upcoming General Conference talk. At the time of this recording, next week, we're going to be having General Conference, and the presiding bishop released on social media a paragraph from the talk that he's going to be giving next week as a little bit of teaser. So this is what this statement says from the presiding bishopric. We are very much aware that we live in difficult times, perhaps as difficult as any recent period in history. The economy in general seems to be out of control. There's high unemployment in many areas. Inflation is running rampant in most countries of the world. Personal debt is staggering. It seems almost impossible for young people to buy a home. Many who have purchased a home have monthly payments which leave no room to handle the slightest emergency. Okay, now for the reveal. I fibbed a little bit. That is not a preview of what we're going to hear next week in General Conference. It's not from the current presiding bishopric or bishop. It's from Bishop Victor Brown, who was the presiding bishop when he gave this statement in the October 1980 General Conference. So almost 44
let's talk about this for
years ago, a year before I was.
It's interesting because, I went into conference. This is the week following conference. And I think it's ideal that we suspended this another week to bring this video to you. But I went into conference looking for those types of guidance, and they were not there. I mean, if you really, really paid attention to the Isaiah speak, you might have found some of that there. But the current administration, current leadership today, isn't focused in this area. However, it doesn't mean it's not a commandment. I was hoping to see more warning of this for the saints of what's coming down the road, and it just wasn't there. And I have my reasons why I think that wasn't there. I honestly feel that the people, we as members of the church globally now, we just can't handle it. And as you watch this video, you're going to see why we couldn't handle the truth being told to us. And I think that's why a lot of reasons why we're not seeing the same things being discussed as we did if we go back into the 70s and 80s, how they were discussed and preparing us for a crisis and so forth that was coming. Now, President Hinckley is going to make a point here. You're going to see Connor Boyack bring out that there'll be a 1-year cleansing. That hasn't happened yet. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. But let's go back and listen to Connor. We were hoping to see that in conference. But then again, the message given with all the hatred stuff out there, I can also see where it was needed. Well, go ahead, Walter. Roll the video. Let's roll some more.
Was born, this statement was given, but you read it and it's very descriptive about the circumstances today, right? High unemployment, inflation running rampant, impossible for young people to buy a home, people who have all this debt and struggle with monthly expenses and so forth. 44 years ago, that counsel was given. And so it's interesting to view that in the context of the teachings that we have as Latter-day Saints received for decades past. Now, we'll talk in a little bit about two things. Number one, what's some data that I can share with you about the average preparedness of, or I should say the preparedness of the average Latter-day Saint family, but then also what's with this idea of us hearing less in recent years on the topic of self-reliance and preparedness? Is there anything to that that should concern us or that she would wonder? So that's where we're going to head. First, I want to, not to beat a dead horse because so many of us had heard a lot of these statements in past years, but perhaps especially because we haven't so much heard it recently, it could be good to have at least a little bit of a refresher about what some of the church leaders in the past have said on this issue so that we're on the same page before we then look at the changes that have been made in more recent years. So here, let's start in 1980. This is President Benson talking about the topic.
Today I emphasize a most basic principle: home production and storage. Have you ever paused to realize what would happen to your community or nation if transportation was paralyzed? Or if we had war or depression? How would you and your neighbors obtain food? How long would the corner grocery store or supermarket sustain the needs of the community?
Okay, and it's in that same talk that President Benson gave that he also addresses this question of welfare or government dependence. I'll talk in a little bit about that issue and what the current church policy says about turning to the government for help when you need assistance. But here's from the same talk, President Benson talking about whether we should be relying on the government for help when we fall into hard times.
Unfortunately, there has been fostered in the minds of some an expectation that when we experience hard times, when we have been unwise and extravagant with our resources and have lived beyond our means, we should look to either the church or government to bail us out.
I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.